recording? Yeah. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a really long time, and honestly I have no excuse for it because I just had no idea what type of video to make, and I also had like no motivation as per usual. We're still technically in quarantine, and I probably will take advantage of that fact because there's nothing else to do. But today I was thinking that I'd do a movie review, and so I mean, I wouldn't say most of you because I don't really think anybody really knows, but I am a film fanatic. I wouldn't like, not with like classic films, but with like very in-depth foreign films, I guess. I don't know. I just really like watching movies, and I am an extreme binge watcher. So some of you may have seen that on Netflix there has been a new release. It's called Your Name Engraved Herein, and it is a Taiwanese gay film, and I thought that it was very interesting. I haven't heard too much I haven't heard too much like commercializing of it, and when I saw it I was like, oh, it's very interesting, because I personally have like, I really like watching LGBTQ plus films because I feel like a lot of the times it shows a more in-depth plot, I mean, personally, but I like how movies about it and films about it don't just show like the coming out, because yes, it's a very important part, but I feel like it should be normalized to a point where that doesn't need to be said, like, because there's so much more to a love story, a gay love story, than just the social stigma of it, and I think it's very important. So I'm gonna give you guys a little review. So I watched this movie twice, and basically it takes place in Taiwan, I think 1987, I believe, and it was when the Taiwan martial law was first lifted. So that was, of course, a very revolutionary time for everybody, and you can see throughout the movie that it's just so evident, the time period. There's so many cinematic moments where it just showcases the time period so well. Cinematography is amazing, the use of color, just the camera angles, oh my goodness, it was brilliant. Like, there was so many memorable quotes as well, and it was generally just a masterpiece in my opinion. So I'll give you a brief run through. I honestly didn't really prepare any pinpoints and things like that, so this is just straight out from my head. So basically, in the beginning of the movie, it gives you like a sort of flash forward in the middle where he's talking to the priest, and this guy, his name is Dahan. Yeah, Dahan. And basically, he is gay, and throughout the beginning, the first half, you'll see that he starts to get close to this transfer student, which everybody nicknamed Birdie. And that, I thought, was such a good illusion. It was an amazing illusion, because Birdie is, I believe, an original 1960s film, and it was about a soldier in the Vietnam War, I believe, and he came back, he had a lot of PTSD, and there was his best friend would visit him every day in hopes to basically help him and help him eat and things like that. And the whole thing with the movie Birdie was that basically it was sort of evident that they were not in a friendship. It was more than that, but because of the time period and the social stigma of it and things like that, I haven't personally watched Birdie in full length yet. Is it in focus? Okay, yeah. I think. I don't know. But I've watched a few clips of it and I can completely tell why. But of course, that was much earlier. It was mid-1900s. Like, that is just like such a, definitely it's such a controversial topic to bring up at the time. And I think it was very interesting. And so throughout this movie, your Name Engraved Herein, it was very prominent. They kept on mentioning that the outcasts were called Birdie, and he was the main sort of like start for it. His whole being, he was just always crazy. He would do random things, but because I think at some point he reached a point of maturity, Birdie, and he knew that he couldn't just do whatever he wanted anymore. He did, but to an extent of that he knew was allowed. He did things that broke school rules, yes, but he knew that he didn't want Dahan to get hurt. And the whole entire back and forth between like flash forward and flash and back, it was so well paced that it gives the viewers, the audience, like a new perspective to it. And I thought it was so interesting. Everything about it, the songs that were used, they were very much from the time period. It was so cool, as if you lived with them during that time and you faced the struggle with them. Every single scene of pain and sorrow, you felt like you felt with them. There were definitely scenes that were really funny, but from a perspective of someone that speaks Chinese, like Mandarin, and also they speak some Taiwanese, there was a lot of things that you wouldn't get with the English subtitles, which I also had on, of course, but it was so different being able to see something in so many different ways and view love in such a complex way, and it was so good. It was so good.
A few moments later.
But the ending was bittersweet. I loved the movie as a whole. I felt like it made sense, but it felt like at the end of the movie you just keep wondering like what could have been, you know? If was such a reoccurring theme in my head. I was like, if this didn't happen, if this happened instead, that wouldn't have been an issue. If he was brave enough to take a step forward with this relationship, to keep it going, there was no need for that ending to be like that. Nothing terrible happens, I will say that. No major character deaths, anything like that, so you don't have to be scared. Although I was very nervous because of the comments I read, and it really made my thinking so abstract. It makes you think about what loving would feel like if it was worthwhile to love, if it wasn't that kind of love, because their love was so strong. It just was. There is a little bit of nudity, yeah, but nothing that anyone can handle. I feel like this is like rated 17. I wouldn't say rated R. I think it's nice. It definitely, to me, I don't really think it was a platonic relationship. There was definitely a lot of desire. But speaking of which, there was a point where lust and love came up in the conversation with the priest, and that conversation really hit hard. There was this line where he was just like, and the priest, he was like, lust is a sin or whatever. At first he was definitely like, okay, homosexuals are a sin. And of course that was a bit of a conservative approach, to say it nicely. But to a point he begins to understand he's right. His student's right, Jahan's right. You know, Jahan says things like, what makes loving someone so wrong? What makes loving someone so sinful? And is my love any less than yours? Is the love I give any less than yours? Why is it not worthy of the same approach, of the same respect, and just things like that? And it brings a lot of the same concepts that you see around nowadays, but words them into something that you feel like it'll stick with you. These are such short lines, but they're so prominent and they just stick with you. It was like the depiction of youthfulness and like love, and of course I've yet to experience that, but I thought it was so interesting because back in the day when you love someone, or if you found someone, they were your life partner. Like your first love was usually your life partner, and whether it be that you loved them later on, it didn't matter, because financial stability was the goal. But they chose to risk and like just everything in that one moment, even though they knew it would only last momentarily. So I wrote this thing and it said, young love is the most beautiful and pure, but it's the most euphoric, but it is with no restraint. And I find that so true, because young love, it doesn't really last, in my opinion, but you're so happy in that moment that you forget that it doesn't, and you don't really hold yourself back from it. And I think that's so wonderful. Yeah, I daydream about it all the time. I do. I wonder when my young love will come. I mean, I'm not old yet, but clock is ticking. And there was, oh my goodness, there was this part where he was just screaming into this endless sea, the endless ocean, and just screaming, nothing but screaming. And Birdie holds Jahan back and he's just like, no. And they went so far from their home after a bunch of stuff went down where this girl was involved, and Birdie tried to use that girl as sort of like a wall to put in between him and Jahan, because he knew that it was not gonna end well. And in the end, not in the end, sort of like in the middle, they found that momentary happiness. And there was this moment, there was a scene where Jahan calls Birdie's house, and he asks if it's Birdie. And there was something I noticed that it didn't really do anything for the story, but I felt like it probably was important a little bit, at least. Where Birdie was just, he was a complete mess. He was disheveled, and in his house he picks up the phone, he's crying and everything. And maybe it's just the fact that the phone was near the wall of alcohol, but it brought me to feel as though he was not in the best household. His father might have been alcoholic or something like that. I do know his father was the principal, or like the, I don't know, just he was a higher up in the education system. And he had 3 older sisters, I think, and he was always just like, it's brought up multiple times that he shouldn't have been alive, he was a mistake and things like that. And maybe that's what brought him to be so crazy. Like, he wasn't crazy, like insane, but he did things that were out of the norm for kids at the time. And there's so many things just made me remember it so well. There's so many quotes, and like, I want to pull them all up, but it's oh my god. To wrap it up, I feel like the historical contribution added a lot of flavor to just this romance in general, and it added so much flavor. Just so... Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you didn't, that's okay. And don't forget to subscribe. Okay, bye. Thank you.